Cat TV is celebrating 30 years of community media. Help support Cat TV's next 30 years by becoming a member today. Your membership will help us continue covering meaningful, local content. Thank you for supporting your local community media station.
And welcome to the Select Board meeting in Bennington for May 9th, 2022. I'm Jeannie Jenkins and I chair this board, and I'd love for my fellow board members to introduce themselves.
I'm Gary Corey, welcome.
I'm Jim Carroll, good evening.
Jean Connor.
Sarah Perrin.
Bruce Lee Clark, welcome.
Wonderful. Also with us tonight, we have Stu Hurd, our town manager. We have Nancy Lively at the table, taking great minutes as always, and we have Jim Vyers on the camera for Cat TV. Tom can't be with us tonight, so we will see him at the next meeting. So let's begin, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
And now, Jean, if you would read the town vision that guides all of our work.
I will. Bennington is a welcoming, engaged, inclusive, resilient community where everyone, regardless of identity, shares in our vitality and benefits from an outstanding quality of life.
Thank you very much. All right, so next up is the consent agenda. For the purposes of discussion, could I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
And seconded? All right. Any discussion, any updates for Nancy or questions for Stu? No? All right, in that case, all in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye. 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 Any opposed, please say no. Any abstentions? All right, we're good to go. All right, next up is public comment. And I have a couple of quick housekeeping items to begin with. I want to remind everyone that the purpose of public comment is to share information that is useful to all and is not on the agenda. Usually these are upcoming events, workshops, or such. It could be a concern or a compliment, but it's not a time for discussion. The discussion happens when the item comes up as an agenda item, or if appropriate, if you have follow-up questions, please find out who the appropriate town staff person to talk with is and have a conversation with them. So beginning in April, we asked that people take a seat after they speak. This is to allow for a more even flow of comments and has been appreciated by many individuals in the public. The only exception to sitting down when you finish would be if the select board had a clarifying question, like what's the date of the event or where are you holding it, that sort of thing. So again, we're receiving comments from the public. This is not discussion. We also are trying to keep to our rules of procedure, which only allow 15 minutes for public comment. And our trustee public comment committee, which is Sarah, Jean, and Tom, decided that 3 minutes was a good amount of time for people to speak. We've not been very strict with that, particularly because when people don't usually come up and share information, it's a little intimidating to stand at a podium, and often people sort of lose their track and sometimes go on a little longer than they anticipate. So if someone goes 30 seconds over or 2 minutes over, let's just be kind to each other and know that, you know, we're all doing the best we can. And then the last thing I want to say is that everyone makes mistakes, and sometimes, particularly when we're tired or when we're speaking off the top of our heads, we misspeak things, and it's important that we correct those errors, but that is not a gotcha moment. So if someone makes an error, we want to correct it, and if you realize that you did it, that's fine. If somebody else wants to correct it, that's fine. But it's really just to make sure that we all know the facts and we're trying to be as honest with each other as we can be. So again, it's just, please, let's be kind to each other. I do want to correct an error about the senior center that was brought up last week. Thanks to the communication coordinator for catching the misspeak. According to the assessor's office, the senior center's assessed value is $400,000, and that is a number that's about half of what was stated at the meeting, so just want to correct so everyone knows the senior center's assessed value is $400,000. So with that, let's move on. Oh, yeah.
I just want to add, I think most of us are participating in a Vermont League of Cities and Towns training Wednesday, and the topic is how to conduct informative, well-run public meetings. So we may learn something new when we're doing the training on Wednesday, so there may be more changes based on what we learn during that training. So I just wanted everyone to be aware of that you know, it's a big deal to run meetings as well as we can, and we're still learning as well.
Thank you. All right. So first up tonight, we have Al Bashevkin and Madison Kramer from the Bike Hub.
Thank you. There are lots of good things happening here in Bennington, and Madison and myself are here to introduce one more community dream, and that's the Bike Hub. About a year ago, conversations began about forming a bike organization that can bring cyclists together, as well as provide the needed services to sell, maintain, and repair bicycles. The idea has percolated for some time. A visit to the old Spokes home, and I'd recommend folks get up there if they're interested in it. The old Spokes home in Burlington, Vermont, provided for us a model as we work together to build the Bike Hub in Bennington. Today we had our organizational meeting, so we're official. We elected our officers and our board of directors and are beginning our journey. We look forward to growing a bike culture here in Bennington and the surrounding towns, and our board is representative of the greater Bennington, New York, and Massachusetts area. Our hope is to assume the assets of Highlander Bicycle and reopen it as the Bike Hub. Our activities will include the sales of new and used bicycles, bicycle repair and maintenance, classes in bicycle repair and maintenance, especially for young people, safe riding classes, community rides, and other activities to enhance the bike culture and climate here in Bennington. So we're starting slow as we want to get it right. Our first activity will be a bike safety fair at the site of Highlander Bicycle, 160 Benmont Avenue here in Bennington. And board member Madison Kramer is here to talk about that event.
Thank you. This is a really exciting new endeavor. As somebody who started biking a lot more since the pandemic and needs a lot more encouragement, there's a great group of people who wants to help make that happen. So the Spring Bike Bash is what we're calling it. It's May 21st. It's a Saturday in about 2 weeks. And it's 12 to 3 o'clock right outside of where the Highlander was at the Benmont Mills. And we're excited to kind of have folks there to help guide bike maintenance, talk about your bike issues, help with basic tune-ups. We're going to have refreshments and conversations about what we all collectively want out of this bike hub for our community. I think that's it, and we're probably up against 3 minutes. So thank you so much for the opportunity to introduce this to the community, and we look forward to seeing a lot of you there.
Thank you. Any clarifying questions before they sit down? We're good. All right. Thank you very, very much. All right, and then next up, Jenny Dewar to talk about downtown.
Oh, I shouldn't have touched it. You had it there perfectly. Okay, can you hear me? Hi, everybody. Just bringing you up to date on some stuff going on for downtown. We got both cases at the Welcome Center on Route 7 that are all downtown. It's a three-dimensional representation of downtown with signage. It's beautiful. So if you get a chance to go up there, they do get hundreds of people every day. When you go, it seems empty, but that's because their job is to get people out quickly and down to us. So our fountain next to 215 is being painted. The water should be on by next week. You'll notice maybe that our moose is back. Moose is getting a moose lift. So his or her or their face is currently covered in plastic, and that's why, because they have been sanded, so we are protecting the moose prior to the moose lift. And the moose lift will hopefully involve young artists. That's what we're trying to aim for, having them paint our moose for us. The Thursday Night Live campaign ended today. We made what we needed to make to have the series. So I thank you to all the donors that donated through Better Places and all the sponsors and donors who donated outside of that. The first Hemmings Cruise-In is May 19th. That's going to be on Main Street and School Street. I won't talk about the part we haven't gotten permission yet for, but that's exciting. They're expecting about 250 cars, so come to that. Mayfest is coming, May 28th. We have about 75 vendors. There's still room for a few more, maybe, but everybody just hope for good weather, please. Finally, there's a downtown calendar that I'm trying to incorporate everyone's events going on downtown, so that's on the homepage of the Better Bennington Corporation's website, so that's betterbennington.com, so you can always check there. I also made, for reference, I'm going to give this to all of you up there. This is what's going around to our merchants so they know what's happening, so to try and urge them to stay open later on those days. Any questions? Yeah.
In the event of rain for the cruises, are they canceled?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so cruise-in is rain or no. I mean, it's shine or no. They make the call on the day of.
Okay.
They start talking about it the day before if it looks like it's going to be bad weather. Mayfest is happening no matter what.
Right.
Thursday Night Live is going to move into Mission City if it rains.
That's good.
So we are very, very grateful to Mission City for opening their doors to us that way. And they're also acting as our green room for the performers. So.
Okay.
Fantastic. I still remember the year it snowed on Mayfest. I know.
Goodness.
It will never happen. No. No, thank you so much. All right, so anyone else who did not sign up who would like to speak? Nancy White, please come up.
Nancy White, Bennington. Please clarify for me, on our official Town of Bennington grand list that anybody can go online and look at, for at least the last 6 years, the senior building and land has been listed for over $750,000. I believe it was $778,000. Now, if you're going to say tonight it's only worth $400,000, why has it been valued at double that at our grand list for the past several years?
That's a great question, Nancy. So someone will get back to you on that because I was given different information. So we'll get back to you.
You said you had different information?
Yes, I gave you the information. You emailed those questions and I emailed you back, and so I repeated it.
Well, anybody can look at the grand list right now.
So Nancy, it's not a time for discussion. So
Okay.
I'm very happy to have staff look at that again, and if it's not correct, we'll make a correction at the next meeting, and we will email you in the interim. Okay?
Also,
Thank you.
As far as your policy for changing how you run your meetings, it says you're supposed to vote if you're going to change how you want citizens to be dealing with you. If you're now saying that citizens are going to sit down, you never voted on that when you brought it up 2 meetings ago. Are you going to vote, make it official?
You know what, I'm going to check on that because we are not changing the procedure. The procedure is something we would have to vote on. So, and that says that we need 15 minutes. If we need to vote on it, then we will do that at the next meeting. Nancy, again, this is not time for discussion. You've asked 2 questions. I'm writing them down, and we will get back to you.
It's not a discussion, it's a fact. You're the ones that brought up.
Nancy?
Make up the rules as you go along at televised meetings. Not fair to the citizens of this town.
Thank you. All right, anyone else who hasn't spoken who would like to speak? Dan, are you getting up for the next agenda item?
Set up for the next.
Yes, okay. So next up are not 1 but 2 public hearings. So our first public hearing is on land use regulations and the town plan amendment. And I believe that Dan is starting us off.
I will. Okay, hello everyone. We are here today for a public hearing regarding proposed changes to the land use development regulations, otherwise known as the zoning regulations, and a minor change to the town plan, which is really just a minor map change. And we'll talk about those. Just a little background about why we're here, how we got here. As most of you know, the healthcare system purchased the former Southern Vermont College, now we're calling it the Everett Estate property, and requested that the Planning Commission take a look at some changes to facilitate appropriate redevelopment of that property. So we spent the last few months, correct, Jason? I've spent a little while. So, yeah, just since December, working with the medical center and the Planning Commission and interested neighbors, et cetera, to try to propose something that works for everyone, the community and the medical center. And that's what we are going to discuss this evening, and that you guys have seen in your packet a couple of times. So I'm hoping that you're somewhat familiar with it, but we're going to go through it a little in some detail tonight, just to make sure that everyone is comfortable with what the proposal is. I thought I'd start with just a map showing the overview. A little easier to see. Just kind of a quick aerial photo of what we're talking about as far as the area. So just to orient folks, this is the hospital property. You can see all the development there. And then this parcel here, this is the Everett Estate property. You can see the gymnasium here and the mansion here. So just kind of orienting folks to where the property we're talking about. It is the former SVC Everett Estate property. The area that we're talking about looking at changes in zoning is essentially from here down, from this tree line down. You can see the mansion is here again, and this is the gymnasium. But we're not talking at all about changing anything up here in what's currently known as the Forest District. That is all conserved land anyways. It is also protected by our zoning regulations from any significant development. So that is not being under discussion, and it never has been. But just want to make it clear that we're just talking about essentially the area that has been developed in the past by SVC as their campus area. So I just wanted to orient folks on that, and then I want to go to another map. This is our zoning map, and this is the map as it exists today, except for the proposed change. And that area, again, just to kind of orient folks, this is the hospital property right here. This is the SVC property right here. We are proposing, the Planning Commission is proposing that the lower portion of the property, essentially the campus area, including the gymnasium and the mansion and the open fields, down to Monument Avenue Extension, be changed to the institutional professional district, which is the same as what across the street, the hospital is zoned at currently. That area is prior to it currently exists as, although we're proposing changes to IP, as a mixture of rural residential, which is the area between Mansion Drive, Monument Avenue Extension, and rural conservation, which is the area between the Forest District and Mansion Drive, essentially. That's roughly. So the proposal is to change that area of the campus property, the Everett Estate, from rural residential and rural conservation to institutional professional district. So that's the change that's proposed to the map. That will apply equally to the land use and development regulations, as well as the town plan. The only reason we're amending the town plan is because it does have a land use map that shows these land use designations, and we need to amend that in order to make it consistent with our regulations. So are there any questions about the location and that sort of thing, just to make sure everybody's okay with that?
Can you just point out Monument Avenue?
Sure. If you can see the pointer. So this is Monument Avenue.
Okay.
Right here.
Okay. Thank you.
This is the hospital property right here. And this is Mansion Drive right here, leading up to the mansion, the Everett Estate.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's clear to understand that we're talking basically about what people think of as the developed portion of the former SVC campus. So let me go through. I'm going to go through, not in too much detail, but enough, I hope, so folks understand what we're proposing. The text of the IP district, which will now apply. Let's see. I'm going to try to increase that a little bit.
Can you do that one more time?
Sure.
Thank you.
How's that?
Much better.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
So, as we mentioned, we're changing rural residential and rural conservation of the former SVC property, proposing to change to the institutional professional district. And in order to accommodate that change, we also made some changes to the current institutional professional district language, which is what you see in red. So, what exists now in the institutional professional district is in black, and what is proposed is in red, and those changes are precipitated by the unique circumstances of the campus and how we wanted to make sure the IP district fit in and was appropriately applied to that particular area. So you'll see as we go through, I'll try to highlight some of the changes that were made. So in the table of allowed uses, the only change proposed to the IP district is to allow for hotel use, and that's because of the Everett Estate, as SVHC, is of the belief, based on consultants that have reviewed the property, that that is the most likely use for the Everett Estate property, the mansion, to be redeveloped as, so that they think that is probably the only use that will attract investors to spend the kind of money it'll take to redevelop that property. So that's the one change to the uses in the IP district. I will say, so as far as changing from the rural residential to the IP district on the campus, really the only things that are added are hospital and medical clinic type uses. It's really not that different from what was allowed there before, except for the hotel, hospital, medical clinic, those sorts of things. Daycare facility, community care facility, college, university, those were all already allowed on there. So the uses that are permitted on that property really revolve around, that are added by changing to the IB district, really revolve around institutional type uses, and that hotel use for the Everett Estate Mansion itself really was what was contemplated. So just to let folks know. So another thing we spent a lot of time is being really careful about what the built environment looks like up there now, in the future, if there's ever any changes. So we really look closely at dimensional requirements, setbacks, building height limitations, all that sort of stuff. So one of the things that we did make sure was included was a front yard setback that's a little bit more than the IP district, and it's actually more than the rural residential district, which currently applies. It's a 30-foot setback. We expanded that. Our Planning Commission proposed that be expanded to 50 feet from Monument Avenue Extension, basically making sure that there's significant green space along the roadway. So that's a slight change, although 50 feet from Monument Avenue Extension existed in the IP district on the other side of Monument Avenue Extension already, so that wasn't a change. But it is a change since we're moving the IP district over to the campus. The other thing we changed slightly was the building height. So it's kind of an interesting situation with the regulations that applied to SVC. So SVC, because it was a college, we had a unique height limitation there, which was 40 feet. So that's not really a change for the property. It stays the same, but it drops down for what's allowed on the rest of the IP district, which is a much taller, denser, around the hospital itself and the other IP district lands. The other thing that's important to note here is that for the building height was limited to only 30 feet if it's within 150 feet of Monument Avenue Extension. So, and that is the current, that's what's allowed in general in the rural conservation and rural residential district. Anyways, so that's not really a change, but it made sure that that 30 foot was preserved within that 150 feet of Monument Avenue Extension. The other change we made is we did increase the building coverage a bit. It's 15% in the rural residential district, and we're proposing, Planning Commission proposing 25% on the SVC campus. Okay. So some other changes to some of the what we call the supplemental district standards, where we drill down into some of the more specific uses and how they regulated. One of it kind of goes without saying that that biological waste is a part of running a medical clinic or a hospital, and so that's allowed in the IP district, but we're not allowing it on the SVC campus. So anything west of Monument Avenue, you can't have that type of facility. So that will not be migrating up the hill anytime. The other thing we did is the IP district was pretty limiting with regard to multifamily dwellings. It was significantly more limiting than the rural residential district, which is what a portion of the SVC campus is currently in. It was limited to 3 units, which just obviously, if you look at the campus, there's lots of buildings up there that would have to, in order to be redeveloped, would need to allow more than 3 units of housing in those buildings. So we allowed for true multifamily dwellings to be constructed or renovated in that area. The other thing is that we made it clear that that hotel use is really only limited to the Everett Estate property. It's not all the other IP district areas. So here's for those folks that, and we really took this seriously, the Planning Commission really took this seriously. So obviously we all know that the Everett Estate property is a unique property. It's beautiful both from on the site and off the site. It's a gem in Bennington, and luckily we have a property owner that respects that, and although we don't have any worries about them, you never know who's going to own it in the future. So we wanted to make sure that the regulations reflected our hope and desire to keep that property attractive both on-site for the folks that are experiencing those buildings on-site and those folks that are viewing the property from public viewpoints off-site. So a couple of ways we did that is we enshrined in the regulations the historic preservation standards that are currently exist and are likely to exist in perpetuity, the restrictions that the Preservation Trust of Vermont has on the property due to an easement that was granted several years ago. And those are very, very stringent. They apply to the entire property, not just to the historic structures that are there, and they require the written consent of the Preservation Trust for any changes to anything on that property, even if it's as small as a shed. Technically, they have to get approval. And all of those approvals are tied to the Secretary of the Interior preservation standards, which are very comprehensive and very strict. So it's essentially like they have to get the approval for historic preservation tax credits every time a property owner of that property does an improvement on that property. So that is already existing. That's not something we placed anew, but we wanted to make sure that everyone knew about it and that it was also included in our regulations. But it is a very, very, very stringent standard, I can tell you that. That combined with the land trust requirements and the Act 250 requirements, I can say without a doubt that this property is the most heavily protected property in the town of Bennington by far. So I don't think we have really any concerns about, we shouldn't have any concerns about inappropriate development happening up there. But that is what that particular Everett Estate Preservation Standards reflects. It also refers to the scenic resource protection criteria, which looks like a lot of new text here, but that actually already exists in the Rural Conservation District, which is applicable to SVC currently, at least a portion of it, and it actually expands it to be within the Rural Residential District too. So the entire campus is now subject to the scenic resource protection criteria, which I'm not going to read through them all, but you can see it protects open land and hillsides and view sheds, and it is very comprehensive. As I mentioned before, I do think this property is heavily protected from any kind of negative impacts for the community. And although they're in this particular document, they did already apply for the most part to this property beforehand, and we're now making sure that it's clarified in our regulations. So I think it's a good testament to the importance that we all place on that property, that it's well protected. I could talk a lot more about a lot of different things on this, but I think that's it in a nutshell. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I have folks here from the Planning Commission. I have folks here from the healthcare system who can answer questions that I can't, or maybe better at answering them than I am. So why don't you guys let me know what you're thinking, and we'll bring people to the mic who are maybe most appropriate for answering the questions.
All right. Any select board members have questions?
I have a couple. The hotel that's added to this district, will that be added for every district or just this particular piece of property?
It's strictly limited to the portion of the IP district that's west of Monument Avenue Extension, which is essentially, it is the Everett Estate property.
Okay.
That is the developed campus area. So it is very limited, yes. It will not apply to the hospital in their environs. It will not apply to the high school in their environs or the state office building in their environs, which are other IP districts.
Okay. And one other question, the 25%, is that based upon the complete acreage of the property?
It's based on the complete acreage that's within the IP district, but it would not include the forest district. Then you could probably cover that almost entire property with the building if you figured in the forest district as well. I will say, although that 25% seems like a lot, well, it's only a minor increase from the 15% that's allowed currently. And as I mentioned, this property is so heavily protected that I don't think we'll see any negative impacts from that.
Right.
I got a quick one. Dan, what is the complete acreage of the Everett Estate? Do you know?
I don't know. Do you know, Jason?
350, I think.
And that includes the forest?
Yeah.
So 350, according to these folks here who own the property, 350 acres, including the forest district, which is, as we showed before, is the majority of the land is in the forest district and is conserved by the Vermont Land Trust.
Great questions. Any questions? Anyone down here? All right. All right. Anyone in the public have questions? Nancy, please come up.
Despite the fact that that's been private property for over 100 years, it's been incredibly important property to the entire town of Bennington and how it's had such a positive impact on our local economy. Preservation Trust of Vermont has been working with the property and awarding grants up there since, I believe, 1996, and I believe they're going to be working with the property, whoever's up there going forward. I think the state is ready to spend a lot of money, and I think it's up to the select board and the public to know exactly what will be happening in the future so that it will help our local economy, because Bennington is going to be impacted far more than any other town. How many acres are going to be included with the mansion when you subdivide it and sell it?
Do you
What that was talking
want to
about-
go ahead and just go through your
I'm
questions?
sorry?
Do you want to go through your questions? Why don't you just go through your questions, if that makes sense, rather than...
Okay, at the Planning Commission meeting, they said the plan was to subdivide the property, sell the mansion and the land around it. I was interested to know how many acres will be included.
All right. All right. Jason, I think, is going to come up and...
The answer to that question is, it depends. And I say it depends not to be evasive, it depends on the developer, the type of project, what their needs are, how it's going to be financed, all sorts of things. It could be as little as a few, it could be as many as a few dozen, or a different answer. It really, it depends on the type of development. But to amplify maybe what Dan said, whatever that development is, has a very rigorous, an extremely rigorous set of criteria and approvals that it must meet. So,
Thank you.
So I don't know if Dan will answer this, or if you're going to be the one to answer it. So before the subdivision is approved, would that come back before the select board?
No, it was a development report. They're the body charged with administering the regulations.
Okay, I just thought before you subdivided something, you had to know how many acres were going to be in it. Can somebody talk about the 4 acres of land that Putnam Memorial Hospital got about 50 years ago from the novitiate? I think it has something to do with a spring. Is that spring still active? If it is, where does that spring go, and what purpose does it serve?
Who would like to answer that? Okay.
the novitiate, I think, that was being referred to as what was previously housed on the property at one point. I was just checking with Kevin Daly, who's here as well. Neither of us are exactly sure which 4 acres are being referred to. It didn't have anything to do with the discussions with the Planning Commission for the new regulations for that property. If it's something that the Select Board or anybody has many more questions about, we will look into it, but we're really not sure what that is referring to.
All right, anyone else have questions? Thank you. Anyone else have questions for? Oh, okay.
Dan, or maybe Jason can answer it, or can't. Do you know of any imminent plans to use any part of the property?
Well, the hospital has been using a lot of the property for healthcare purposes, mostly related to its COVID testing and vaccination clinics. So many of us are already familiar with that. There certainly has been discussions with some interested parties, but there's nothing under contract. So other than, as Dan mentioned and we had mentioned at the Planning Commission, we've hired consultants to, the hospitals hired consultants to aid it in marketing the property and determining what the highest and best use of the property is. And through that marketing process, we have been contacted by interested parties, but at this time, there is no contract, there is no firm offer. There are ongoing discussions, as there often are with pieces of real estate that are available for development.
Thank you.
Right. All right. And so, Dan, am I understanding, so this is the first of 2 hearings?
So the next
hearing obviously will be at the next select board meeting, and then at that point, you folks can close the hearing if you wish and vote to either adopt or not
All right.
the regulations. I would want to point out that we have Ken Squier here from the Planning Commission, Robert Ebert, and Mr. Michael McDonough, who worked really hard on these. So they don't get recognized very often for the hard work they do, so I just want to make sure that folks
These are
know.
really thorough. Yeah, this is really, really good work.
Yeah, I was just listening and absorbing the presentations and listening to Jason, and you can tell that the utmost care has been taken by everyone involved to really, really make this work for the hospital, and I'm completely comfortable with what you've done.
Thank you very much. It was a great effort to work with these folks who stepped up and took over a property that we didn't know what its future was going to be, but I think it's in good hands now. So.
Yeah, and as always, yes, we thank the hospital for their ongoing stewardship. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, now on to public hearing 2, which is on the Squier House and the Vermont Community Development Program funding, potential funding.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Shannon Barsati, Community Development Director for the town, and I'm here to introduce Stephanie Lane and Madison Kramer from Shire's Housing to give an update on the recovery housing projects, the Squier House and the Gage Street property as well. And part of the reason that we're having the public hearing is that they are applying for additional community development funding. So part of that process through the Vermont Community Development Program is to hold a public hearing ahead of the application and then also at the close of different projects. So they've already had a discussion with the select board, if you'll remember, about recovery housing when they put in their first application. And this is really just kind of a renewal and an update on where the project is now. So I'll hand it over to Stephanie.
Good evening, Select Board members, and thank you for having us and hearing about our project this evening. As Shannon has said, we've already presented this at one point, and it was for recovery housing funds through CDBG.
Can you get a little closer to the microphone?
Sure. How's that?
Oh, that's much better. Do you want to bring it down a little bit?
Okay. I have heels on too, and I'm still missing it here. I'm usually like about here. But anyway, so we have presented this in the past for recovery housing funds that are specifically set aside for these types of projects. There historically has not been any money to do recovery housing in Vermont, and with the ARPA opportunity, they have set aside some funds for that. And I think you were hearing good things about, in the future, perhaps more funding sources being available. But frankly, there's just not. And when we try to mix tax credit with these types of projects, they don't work. And that's one of our biggest mechanisms for getting this type of, or any type of housing built. So Squier House is actually eligible for federal historic tax credits, which is great for that project, and potentially downtown credits if we can get our Part 2 approved in time for the applications, which is another whole story. So we've been working diligently. We did get the environmental release on this building, and we were able to close on it and purchase it last week. So it actually is part of our portfolio now, and so we have site control for good now. And we were a little bit worried about that, but thanks to Lon McClintock and all of his partners for being patient and for working with us and really supporting this project, we were able to do it. So we are here, as Shannon said, to hold the required public hearing to inform you about this project, because we do intend to go back to VCDP, which is loaned through the town, for a gap in funding, like every project in the state, I believe, right now. Just costs are going so sky high from where we start. We reprice, there's a $200,000 gap. This never used to be the case. And we build in healthy contingency typically. And it's an unbelievable market right now. So we are here because we plan to submit another application, but for regular CDBG funds for this one. And we're going to ask for an additional $200,000 to cover the gap. I'm not even using my slides here. So we have already applied for 500 in recovery housing funds and 200 in CDBG funds, specifically for Squier House, which will house the women and children in recovery. The good news, our application in the first round of the recovery housing program funds was deemed highly competitive. We just didn't have our environmental release yet, and there were other products that did, like 612 gauge, so they moved to the front of the line. So when the third round is released, we're pretty confident that it will get funded at the full 500. The not so good news, even with this funding, we see these two houses as one large project, 612 Gage Street and Squier House. We applied separately for funding because that's how we could maximize it, but to us, we see it as one large project. We do have a gap at 612 Gage as well, so we're trying to do some fundraising around that. And I think, you included something about the fundraising campaign at the bottom, if anybody has interest in helping with the capital campaign, and we're starting to see some support in the community come through, and from private donors as well, and some public affiliations and partnerships that we have as well. And here's a picture of the beautiful Squier House. It's historic, obviously, so we're going to have to be extremely careful and monitored throughout construction. We were limited in what we could do. We're dividing it into 3 units. It's required to have commercial space because of how it's zoned, so we have to incorporate an office as well. We intend to house at least 8 women, some possibly with children as well. We have a safety net plan in hand for, if someone is displaced that has a child, what do we do? And our state funders were extremely cautious about that. So we think we've arrived at an MOU that will serve that. It wasn't me. And I swear to God, I didn't break it. But we feel that this is a really dignified and wonderful place to live a sober lifestyle and to have a catch, in between treatment and someone who is sober and doesn't want to go back to the people, places, and things that put them there in the first place. And, it's a dignified space. There'll be shared kitchen space. They'll have their own, there'll be shared bedrooms. There'll be private bedrooms for those that have kids. So I think it's the first in Bennington, and it's the only within 55 miles of Bennington. So how it will work is we'll be the sponsor, the developer, and we'll maintain the building. So we'll do the maintenance, we'll do the groundskeeping, and make sure that it's kept up. And we will own the building, but we will master lease it to V4 and Mission City Church. There'll be 3 apartments, like I said, and the women that arrive there will have already received treatment or achieved sobriety, but will benefit from additional support in an intentional environment as they work on themselves and the recovery journey. Residents will have peer support, recovery coaches, there'll be meetings, services to give them the best chance of continuing to thrive personally and professionally. I talked about the layout. The women sign an agreement with V4, and they commit, among other things, to sobriety, randomized testing, a curfew, and pursuing 20 hours of either employment, education, volunteerism. And it's midterm housing. They think average 8 to 14 months, depending on the individual needs of the family or the woman, and then move on to more stable permanent housing with the help of the program. This is the other 612 Gage, the other part of this. But our application tonight that we're presenting is specific to Squier House and to the women's shelter, or the women's recovery home, not shelter, sorry. And I think that's my last slide.
Great. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah?
So the 2 projects are separate projects?
They are being funded separately. Yes, and they will be separate LPs, but for us, we consider them to be one project, a men's shelter and a women's shelter. The partners are different on each, but yes, they are 2 separate projects on paper.
John, any questions? No? Yes?
Thank you, Stephanie. What is the dates when you want the capital campaign to be closed for the fundraising piece.
Ms. Madison, can you answer that?
We have, I don't even know what date it is anymore, but May 19th is our end date in mind. We are not sure that we're going to make that, but we're really hopeful. We've got a lot of big donors and private donors that have reached out, so we're working with them. It might be a little after that May 19th date, but the sooner the better to shore up funds and make sure that we have everything in place to move forward and kick this off.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Yes.
I'm trying to get my mind around the budget here, and maybe I don't need to, but I'm interested in that. So, can you give me a sense of, let's say, the Squier House funding in particular, or what you anticipate both the acquisition and the renovation costs to be?
Overall budget is about 1.5, including acquisition.
Including acquisition, and
Yes.
and acquisition has already taken place.
It has.
Okay, and this application is for a total of 700,000.
This one is only for 200,000.
Oh, this is okay, so
Yeah,
this is
the separate pot.
the
of
separate
CDBG.
pot of 200,000.
Right.
I think
Okay.
we did also, the wording of it said 500,000 for VCDP CDBG.
Yeah,
Like Stephanie said, we already applied for that, but are going to reapply, so it's just a technicality that we're saying that again.
That's the 500,000 is what you came to us before
Right.
for.
Right. We've
Okay.
al-
And because of a
yes.
technicality, you are reapplying for that.
You are
So this
reapplying,
is 200,000 in addition.
Is additional.
right. Okay, thank you.
Great, okay. Any other select board questions? Public, questions from the public. Jenny?
Thank you, ladies. This is really wonderful. And I wonder if, I know of organizations like these who take clothing that help the men and women get back into the workforce. Is that something that you'd be adding to the Squier's House and the other
Any
one?
wraparound services or assistance, absolutely. Food insecurity would be addressed, yeah. Good idea.
Could you hear that, Cat TV? All right, so wraparound services are welcome. So clothing,
Absolutely.
anything else that helps reintegration
Mhm.
into the community.
Absolutely.
Wonderful, all right. Other questions? Nancy, please.
I support recovery houses, but I have a lot of questions from the people who are going to be running them. Is anybody here from the Vermont, whatever? Are you part of the group from up north?
No, can I?
Okay. Does the state of Vermont still allow those who run recovery houses to kick their tenants out depending on what rule is broken? Would anybody know that? Because that was a big concern by people who supported recovery houses in the past, and somebody had been lobbying Montpelier, and I think the select board needs to be aware of that if that is still allowed to happen. If people from around the state and outside of the state may be living at these houses, we need to know what happens if they break a rule and they're asked to leave. You just can't leave them out on the street someplace.
That is why we have the safety net plan, and our funders, such as VHCB, won't allow us to go ahead until we have that plan in place, so no one is displaced in the process.
Okay.
Stephanie, you may need to repeat that into the microphone. I'm really sorry.
I was just saying that that's why our funders are requiring the safety net plan and the MOU between all of the partners to make sure that if anyone fails at sobriety, that they have a place to be, and that no one is made homeless as a result of this. That's the last thing that we want to do. So we're working with UCS, we're working with the hospital, potentially Shires, to have a place that's safe to put them, especially when there are children involved.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm concerned that a couple of years ago, you had the Bennington County Opioid Response Team at a couple of different meetings. I think there was 8 or 9 groups that had formed a super group. And I think the public was led to believe they were going to come back with a master plan. We never heard back from them, and I'm shocked that UCS isn't running this. They've been the experts on mental health in this town for 40 years. They have multiple houses and facilities all over town. They're the experts on how to do this, and I'm concerned that a church is going to be involved. I don't know what their expertise is. Is Shires going to be running one of these houses?
Absolutely not. We're a developer. We don't provide programming. We're not experts on recovery in any way.
Okay.
So the Vermont Foundation of Recovery will be part of this. So will be TAR, which is the state body that approves the recovery homes. So they're very regulated. And we are simply the sponsor, the owner, the developer. They will provide the programming.
And I will add that Blueprint is coming to update us. They've had some changes in staffing. Several members of the select board had requested that Blueprint give us an update. So the hope is that they will be able to come in June. We'll see if that's possible. And the co-chair of the opioid task force is someone from UCS. So it will be a joint hospital UCS-led presentation. So I think some of the questions that you're asking, which are, I think, really, really important to explore, can be answered at that time.
And when you held the meeting about this last year, and Sarah, I appreciate you tried to speak up for the public because there's a lot of concerns about the recovery house across the street from the rec center. And the rest of you didn't appear that you wanted the public to have a say. These are our neighborhoods, and I don't think you stopped to think that this is going to have an impact on the value of someone's home that is going to be near a recovery house. So I think you need to let the public get involved before any more houses are picked out to see what the neighbors especially have to think about it. I had another question. Let me see where it was.
Yeah, I do want to bring us back to the purpose of this hearing, which has to do with the funding stream and any concerns about...
Well, I think after you had the meeting a year ago, we all thought you were going to have another meeting because citizens have a lot of questions.
I think we're having it right now. This is, as Stephanie explained, there was a hearing at the front end, then they did the application, now they're coming back because they're required to have a hearing, a second hearing.
I'd like to know if the Vermont Foundation of Recovery and any of their houses in northern Vermont are across from a school or a recreation center. They were asked that question last year, and they didn't answer it at the meeting.
So, Nancy, they did answer it, and it was actually a really, really wonderful hearing that brought together, I can't even remember, 6, 7, 8 different organizations to talk about recovery in its entirety. And it was a very long hearing. Many questions were asked. All questions were answered. It was maybe the most superb hearing I have ever attended. It covered everything. So I suggest that you may want to go back and re-watch it because it's on CAT TV.
Jeannie, as somebody who works with people who are in recovery, I have not talked to one person who thought it made sense that one of the houses wasn't going to have 24-hour staffing.
So it is a different hearing that you are now attending. So the hearing here is to furnish information concerning the amount of funds available, the range of community development activities that may be undertaken under this program, and the impact on any historical and archaeological resources that may be affected by the proposed project, and to give affected citizens the opportunity to examine the proposed statement of projected use of these funds. So this hearing right now is about the funding. Nancy, do you have any questions about the funding?
Do you know when the next meeting will be where the people actually running the houses will be here to answer the questions?
We've already had that hearing. We had that hearing. And Nancy, I feel like I'm a bit of a broken record, but the point is to ask the appropriate questions at the appropriate hearing. So I do not want you to come back next week, next meeting, and ask about funding questions, because right now you have the two experts here. You have Stephanie and Madison here who can answer questions about this public hearing. So please look at the purpose of this public hearing and ask questions that relate to this hearing.
And I hope the select board thinks about the fact that I think you have a church involved that has no expertise in being involved. And that's a big question the public has talked about. You have one meeting, you're one and done. You don't want the public to be able to come back and ask questions. And for those of us who have concerns about this, I think we could help to educate you. But obviously, you don't want to learn.
Thank you, Nancy. Anyone else have questions? All right. This was very helpful. I'm sorry that happened.
No, thank you.
And, as always, your work is great.
Thanks.
Your work is great.
And I just wanted to make it clear that V4 will be the group running Squier House, not the church. The church is just an interested partner, and the gentleman is on the board, and he brought this opportunity for all of us to get together. And that's because it's in his heart to do so. And that's all.
Yes. Shannon.
I don't believe this is the case, but do you know if this particular funding requires a select board resolution as well?
It's really hard to hear you guys. I think the
Okay.
microphone isn't working very well.
Oh, sorry. I was just, sometimes we have to have a resolution that you sign, and so I was just confirming that in this case we don't.
Okay.
So.
All right. So Stephanie, would you repeat that V4 is actually the organization?
Yeah, they're the experts that actually run the recovery housing, and they do it throughout the state. Vermont, what is the acronym? Sorry.
Vermont Alliance of Recovery Residences.
And Vermont Foundation of Recovery. So there's one that certifies the housing and certifies the way that it's set up and for success. And then there's one that actually runs the programming, which is V4, and that's who will be doing the oversight of Squier House.
Thank you.
Thank you. That goes a long way toward getting rid of misinformation and disinformation about a worthy project like this.
Thank you.
I think it's also worth noting that this is part of a lot of feedback and engagement with the opioid response team, as Shires is a member of that group and has been since it started in 2018. So we've worked to make sure that this project is evidence-based and aligned with the needs of the community.
I appreciate that. And I also, the Bennington Police Department is up next, and I do think that these kinds of initiatives go a long way in allowing them to work on the policing that they need to do and not other issues that can be taken care of or addressed in other ways. So I really thank you.
Hopefully, this, it's 16 beds, but it's a start, and hopefully it will go a long way.
Yeah, well, and it's important that it's the first in Bennington, and that this will be the first within 55 miles of Bennington, which is really important.
Thank you for your support. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And so now it is the Bennington Police Department's. Do we have to do anything? We do not. Okay. They just need to have a hearing. Okay. Bennington Police Department is here tonight to talk with us. We are really grateful that they are able to come approximately quarterly and give the community and the select board an update on safety in Bennington and their various efforts. Oh, Jim, this is not the best microphone night.
Well, our first person said that he needed to adjust.
How we doing, Jim? We looking all right? Do I look good?
You look great.
Perfect. I got my hair done for this and everything. So I just want to start out by saying thanks. This is our initiative to attend quarterly and share information about what's going on in town emails that I receive or that Lieutenant Grandy receives, questions that we can answer for the community and how we can improve the Bennington Police Department. So we have a lot of information to go over in a short period of time, and I will make sure that we save time for questions at the end. We have a couple of hot topics to talk about, and we want to get through it so that we can continue on our day. So one of the hot topics right now within the Bennington Police Department and within the community is what are we doing about our staffing levels at the Bennington Police Department? Right now we're doing the best that we can. We do budget for 26 full-time police officers here in the town of Bennington, and right now we have 21 officers that are level 3 certified that are currently on the road performing duties. The 3 officers that recently graduated from the Vermont Police Academy are doing very well. They've completed their field training officer process, supervised by Lieutenant Grandy. They're working on their own, and they are currently supervised by a patrol supervisor. So with that being said, 21 out of 26, Chief, what are we going to do about those 5 positions? We're working on it. We just completed a background investigation, and we'll be hiring a recruit that will begin working with us at the Bennington Police Department at the end of May. He will attend level 1 and level 2 training at the Vermont Police Academy. Training is continuing at the Vermont Police Academy. And then he will participate in level 3 training at the Police Academy, which will begin on August 22nd. So what does that mean? It basically means that this person will attend the Vermont Police Academy and will be able to graduate in December, and then he'll participate in the field training officer program, and we surmise that he will be able to be an active patrol officer patrolling the streets of Bennington around February of 2023. So if you stop and think about that, it's a very long process from start to finish. The good news is this officer or this recruit was an officer in another state, and we are looking forward to bringing him on. And we kind of collaborated a little bit with Southwest Vermont Health Center. His fiance just graduated on Saturday from nursing school, and we put her in the right direction. And so we were able to make sure that she has employment at Southwest Vermont Healthcare. And so we feel like that's a win for our community and in both the police department and at the hospital. We are actively recruiting, working with Jonah. Cam and I have been working with Jonah. Jonah created a new poster, which has gone out to some colleges and universities. We stepped it up. We have a QR code now on our poster, and you can take your smartphone, because everybody has a smartphone. You can take your smartphone and you can scan that QR code. It's going to direct you right to our website where you can download an application if you're interested. We're excited about that. That was poster number 1. We're already working on poster number 2, and we're working on highlighting all the wonderful things there are to do in Vermont, and so we are doing that. So those are the positive things that we're doing with recruiting. I want to just tell you that we are, unfortunately, competing with 49 other law enforcement agencies. In addition to that, there are federal law enforcement agencies that are taking police officers, certified police officers, away from Vermont. So we compete with them as well. And we are competing against agencies that offer a little more money and some better benefits. And it's tough. I mean, we are the second busiest municipal police department in the state of Vermont right now. We know that because we're all on the Valcor system, and we do take a look at stats, and it's tough. We've lost a couple of full-time people to a smaller agency that does not produce the workload that we produce. And in speaking with Erica Marthage at the State's Attorney's Office, maybe I've told you this before, the Bennington Police Department is producing 85% of the criminal cases in Bennington County. So we are busy here. You know, in the next generation of recruits that we're trying to bring in, you know, they look at benefits. Years ago, we all looked at money, right? I started at $7.65 an hour. They are looking at benefits. They're looking at scheduled time off. They want to have their time off. We used to fight years ago. We used to look at the detail board, and we used to try to figure out how we could get our name up on the detail board before someone with more seniority. But really, the younger generation, they want to spend time with their families, which in the mental health arena for law enforcement is a wonderful thing. So we have to take a look at that. Scary when you stop and think that Target is paying $24 an hour. And they're investing $300 million. That's Target. We look at some of the ski mountains in the area that are starting their people at $20 to $25 an hour. We're competing against that, and we don't have any free ski passes to hand out. So we need to work on that, not the free ski passes. And the good news is even though we are a little bit low on our staffing levels, we're not nearly as bad as some of the other larger agencies in Vermont. And I can tell you it's a true credit to my staff, our staff, that they continue to handle calls for service. We have not told people to go to www.benningtonpolice.com and fill out a form when they're involved in a motor vehicle crash. We're still responding to motor vehicle crashes. We're still doing all the paperwork. We're not telling people when their wallet is stolen or their purse is stolen. If that happens, sometimes people just misplace them. We're not telling them to go to a website and completing an online document, and it just goes in a file. Our people are doing a great job trying to keep up, and we are very thankful for that. But we do need to take a look at the future and plan to continue to have a successful police department. So one of the other hot topics we want to really talk about is CPARB. It's interesting to me, and I want to share with the community and with all of you that the Bennington Police Department has been involved in CPARB since the inception. There's so many rumors out there that the police are against this, that we're not supporting it. Absolutely couldn't be further from the truth. We 100% support CPARB. We were part of the Safety and Equity Board. We got to train the people that were on the Safety and Equity Board. When they had questions, they went through the manager. The questions came to the lieutenant and I. We answered all of their questions. 100% looking forward to the start of the Community Policing Advisory Review Board. We just want to quell that rumor because it's far from the truth. I think that there's a lot of positive things that are going to come out of CPARB, and we're looking forward to that getting started. If you're interested, this is not an advertisement. If you're interested, you can visit the town website and you can check it out and send a letter to the town manager if you have an interest, and interviews will be coming up sooner rather than later. So really, we would love for our community to be involved, and we can make positive changes at the police department if necessary, and we look forward to all of it. It's all right there on the website, and again, for the last time, we 100% support this, and we think that the more people that we can get involved in the community, the better off we're going to be. So, so let's talk about some great things that are happening. So we've been working now with the Vermont Department of Health for over 3 years on an active shooter program, and we've been collaborating with them since around 2018, 2019. We did some trainings right here at the firehouse, working with Cat TV, and there's a new video that's going to be released, and we are ready to go out and do some in-person trainings. I do star in the video along with Lieutenant Randy. However, we are happy to do some in-person trainings as well. And there's some real benefits that come along with that, like an active Stop the Bleed kit once that's completed. So on another positive note, the Bennington Police Department all members received training on mental health first aid training. Some of us received a little bit more than others because we wanted to try the program or participate in the program, not try it. We wanted to participate in the program. We thought it was absolutely wonderful. My staff came out and the feedback has been phenomenal, really positive. We brought the training here for 2 days, and it worked out really well. My staff has learned a lot from that, and we'll come back to that. We've also had some great training on human trafficking. You all probably read where Lieutenant Randy and I participated in 4 weeks of training, either with FBI LEDA or actually with the FBI. And we did receive a Trilogy Award for completing all of that. Part of that was funded by the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. The rest was funded by the town of Bennington. We were talking about Southern Vermont College earlier. The banner took us up and we had our picture taken, and all I've heard about is I should have stood on a milk crate or a stool because he's so much taller than me. It would have made the picture look better. Jonah didn't say that though, so he's still my friend. So the bottom line is that you know, there's this FBI LEDA training I thought was outstanding, and Lieutenant Randy did as well, and we're already in the process of having our command staff participate in the FBI LEDA training. So anyway, I wore this really cool vest here tonight. I want to take it off and show it to you. Don't worry, Stu, I won't go too far with this. I wanted to show this to you. We had an opportunity as passive members with the Vermont League of Cities and Towns to apply for a $10,000, up to a $10,000 grant. And so we took advantage of that, and we applied for a grant. Geez, you know, I told you $7.65 an hour when I first started, but body armor was outrageously heavy, and it was like wrapped in plastic and everything. And this right here, with one finger, is very light. I don't want to pass it all the way around the room because I don't want COVID or anything like that on my vest. But the bottom line is that it's very, very light, and we're in the process. We ordered 10, and we're in the process of replacing body armor at this time. So we also found with the Department of Justice also just released funds for body armor. So we have applied for some funding from the Department of Justice, and that funding hopefully will be awarded as the summer goes by, so that next year we can even we can replace even more vests. So we're super excited about that, and we just kind of brought that to show everybody that we are making improvements. It's absolutely necessary. We wear them wherever we go. You can wear them underneath, or you can wear them on the outside. The staff prefer to wear them on the outside, just because it's a lot more comfortable. So, hey, so we talk about community policing, and we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing in our community, and that we're tracking our people, not just as a gotcha for our people, but it's to make sure that our people are healthy and safe, and it also helps us with many other programs that we have going, such as the evaluation process. So in working with the Select Board, we have recently joined forces with Guardian Tracking, and Guardian Tracking, it's a lot more than a documentation tool. It's not about just typing a bunch of information into the computer. It's really a leadership tool that's going to help develop our personnel at the Bennington Police Department at all levels. And it's not just the police officers. It involves our civilian staff and our communications people as well. So, they had this saying, we took a training, they had this training with Guardian, and it says, inspect what you expect. So it is a way for us to monitor performance of our people, and also it's a way for us to take a serious look at if we have deficiencies in our staff. We can celebrate success with this program, but at the same time, if we have deficiencies, like training deficiencies, we can correct those as well. When Lieutenant Randy and I participated in the training, we learned that we have to build our Guardian Tracking program, and Lieutenant Randy is already working on that. We have to make sure that our command staff is properly trained in how to use all of that. And I really do think that we're going to be able to complete better evaluations. We're going to be able to keep track of our personnel. But at the same time, we're going to be able to keep track of our personnel if they're involved in a critical incident, such as a SIDS or a significant car crash where there's a lot of trauma. And it will help us determine if there's early detection risk factors. So that is something that we've wanted for quite some time, and we finally have made the moves on putting that together. So hopefully by the end of June, beginning of July, we're going to be up and running with that and have everybody trained. So my people do an amazing job, and we love the fact that we can receive complaints and compliments through the website. And I've told you all before, we do receive more compliments than we do complaints, which is a good thing. So I just want to share two things with you. I may not go word for word, or I may, it depends, but hey, the names have been removed to protect the innocent. And I just want to share with you, these are important to me when these come in, and both of these came in last week. I want to tell you how impressed I was with your officer yesterday. I had to call the police to come for a very serious client situation. The officer was calm and direct and de-escalated the person and took them to the hospital. It's really difficult for most people to be in those situations and keep a cool head, but the officer was amazing. I like to give kudos when kudos are due. Have a great weekend. That was fantastic, right? So when you stop and think about the mental health training that we've received, I'm sure that was part of this, and that's important. This one, is near and dear because we are a welcoming community, 100%. This is important, so just bear with me while I give you this one. I wanted to share a positive experience my family had with one of your officers. My spouse, who happens to be a Mexican immigrant who speaks less than fluent English, was involved in a minor fender bender incident in Bennington. The other driver was initially very upset and somewhat belligerent with my spouse, which made them confused and nervous when the Bennington Police Department was called to the scene. My spouse was not familiar with this as a standard procedure, so my spouse called me to come to the scene to assist with interpretation and any potential de-escalation. When I arrived at the scene, I found the officer attending to all parties professionally, even speaking with my spouse in Spanish. The officer's open disposition and professionalism calmed both my spouse and the other driver, and the whole experience was very efficient and pleasant. It could have been stressful and negative. I wanted to pass on this positive experience with the officer in recognition of the kind of professionalism they exhibited in a situation that was otherwise intimidating and nerve-wracking for my spouse. So again, welcoming community, the officers are doing the best that they can. I took French in high school. I wish I had taken Spanish, but the bottom line is that there's a lot of positive things. Gosh, I wasn't Mickey Mouse. You're supposed to. It's 7:21.
And Stu,
Mickey
you
said
gave
so.
a lot of time. Yeah.
So, I want to just share a couple more quick things with you because I have to answer questions. That's part of the deal. Listen, we participate in a lot of community programs. We love working with Jenny, not because she's here, but we do. She has kept us extremely busy with either text messages or in-person meetings. There's a lot of great things happening in downtown Bennington this summer. For the people at home, we definitely invite you to come down. Lieutenant Grandy and I will be out there. Jenny has filled our detail board with all sorts of assignments, and we're looking forward to Mayfest. It's one of our favorite events. Working with Jenny has been amazing, and it's great for the downtown. It's great to bring people to Bennington. We met with Hemmings Motor News this week, and they're like, yes, 250 cars. And the lieutenant said, how many? 250. And we're just trying to figure out where they're all going to go. It's not like one of those things where there's trophies and all that other stuff. I thought it was all about trying to win a trophy. Apparently not. It's just about showing off your old car. We did tell them no burnouts downtown, so we just wanted to throw that out, right, Jenny? No burnouts. So, hey, one of the other cool things that we did was we just worked with Carrie and Linda at the library. And the library has this Read Around the Block program, which is funded by Sunrise. And so they came to the police department, and I had the opportunity to work with them and read Officer Buckle and Gloria. We actually used Officer Morawski and K9 Gracie, so if you have an opportunity to watch that, our partners at Cat TV, it was actually a lot of fun. If I told you I was nervous, I'd be lying because I was really looking forward to it. It's going to air on Cat TV. It's going to be on the library website. If you have a chance to read it, Rob Morawski really worked with Gracie to try to make things happen when I was reading the book. She disappeared for a little bit. Don't worry if you're watching it. She does come back. And I'm not her handler, I'm not her guy. She really wanted to be with Rob, but we wouldn't let him read the book because his hair was kind of weird that day, so mine looks a lot better. Hey, the other thing we want to promote, bicycle rodeo. We listened earlier, right, about a bike event in 2 weeks. We're a week away. We're on May 12th. 10 to 2, Stu gave us permission to use the Bennington Station parking lot. Free helmets for all. And we actually had an opportunity to already hand out some of those helmets to the families from Afghanistan, which members of the select board were there. We needed an interpreter for that. It was absolutely phenomenal. We were practicing hand signals and everything. It was just amazing. We love getting out in the community and doing those things. There's so many other things that I could talk to you about, but Cam has stepped up twice now because he's supposed to be my timekeeper. And Cam, is there anything you want to add?
No, I have a question.
Oh, question time. So, I have more we could talk about. Maybe I could be invited back in about 3 months or so, but there's a lot of phenomenal things going on in Bennington. The police department's involved, their popsicle trailer's out. We've handed out, I can't even tell you how many popsicles. It's not even warm out yet. But the kids all want blue raspberry, blue raspberry, blue raspberry. Oh my gosh, if we don't have blue raspberry, we're in trouble. So, hey, cotton candy, blue raspberry, right? So, really, that's where we're at. I'll stop now because I'm sure that there might be some questions, and we'll see if I can answer them. And if I can't, the lieutenant will.
Thank you. That was a wonderful update. Any questions from the select board? Yes.
Hopefully these are yes/no questions.
I'll do my best.
Okay? Yes or no. The mental health training, and as you know, I'm always very, very concerned about the mental health of the police officers, in addition to, obviously, our community members. The mental health training that you referenced earlier, was there a component of that was for officers as well as community members having mental health, in a mental health crisis?
Yes.
Thank you. I was also thinking about nursing, and you'll understand why in a moment. With nursing, there are LNAs, there are RNs, there's different levels of nurses. That doesn't exist at all in your profession, correct? You're either a police officer or you're not. Yes or no?
You are incorrect.
I'm incorrect.
So.
Elaborate, yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
In the world of policing in Vermont, there's a level 1, a level 2, a level 2E, a level 3. So it's very similar to nursing. You have the LPN, you have the RN, you have the LNA, blah, blah, blah. And the bottom line is there are different levels of policing. The ultimate goal is to get an officer to level 3 certification, allowing that officer to be able to arrest for a multitude of different violations, to go out and instruct on different types of topics and things like that. So there are different levels, just like in nursing.
But if someone wants to be, is the ultimate goal always to get to level 3, or are there police officers that are level 1 and they will always be level 1 because that's what they prefer?
Not for our department. Level 1 officers can do almost next to nothing.
Okay, that was my question. Like, is there a way to fill some of the positions with lower, and I don't mean it that sounds terrible, but you know what I mean.
The answer is no.
No, thank you.
That was a very good model.
That was actually,
right?
honestly, that was an excellent question. We just went through a meeting with the Vermont Police Academy. They are looking at alternative methods to getting to level 3. I went to college for 4 years. I learned a lot. I learned everything I know about policing by going to the academy and attending training after the fact. The method of obtaining a college degree now is far different than what it was 30 years ago. When someone recommends that you obtain a bachelor's degree and that means that you should automatically be a level 3 certified police officer, absolutely false. Can't do it, don't agree with it, and I will fight tooth and nail to prevent that.
Okay.
It requires training, mental health training, scenario-based training, not going online and getting a degree. And nothing wrong with anybody that gets their degree online, but there has to be in-person training.
All right, so I'd like to open it to public. Any questions? Jenny?
Oh, no.
Not a question, just a compliment. I have to say that these two have been super, super helpful in getting me acquainted with how it all works here, and they've been attentive to everything that I've asked for and needed, and very welcoming. So I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Great. Other questions or comments from the public? Yes, Jonah.
Could you just reiterate the
Jonah.
Just asking to reiterate the date and time for the bicycle rodeo this coming Saturday.
Yes, absolutely. So this coming Saturday is the bicycle rodeo, which is May 14th. And when we have the bicycle rodeo, oh my goodness, it starts at 11 and it goes till 1 o'clock, 11, 12, 1. I believe it goes till 2 o'clock. And basically, I'm sorry, I'm even wrong on that. It's 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So we were both wrong. That's what the flyer says. 11 o'clock. Oh my gosh, I printed the wrong flyer. That's why I'm wrong. Well, because Jonah offered to help us and we went back and forth. The lieutenant is correct. So it starts at 11 and it goes until 1 o'clock. That is my fault and I apologize.
And it is on May 14th.
Yes.
And it's at the Bennington Station parking lot.
Yes.
Or actually, it's not the Bennington Station anymore.
150 Depot Street. We're going to serve food. Everything is free. There's going to be entertainment by Lieutenant Grandy. And yes, Depot Street this Saturday. Free helmets. Yes.
All right, all right. Any other questions from the public? Can I just ask, can the Guardian training or the Guardian tracking system, is the company's name Guardian? Is that, where is it from?
Yes, it was Guardian Tracking, and it was just bought out by a parent company. But if you were to Google Guardian Tracking, you can actually take a look at that.
Okay, and it would give us information about the kinds of things that
we'll be tracking.
That will be tracked. And so do you, does it set the parameters of what is tracked, or does each department do that?
We do that. We build that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right.
You know, with like as Cam said, with guidance from them. This is brand new to us. They're going to have to teach us how to export information and things like that. So.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
And the ages for the bike helmets? What are the ages for people that?
We actually bought, we have a sponsor, the Vermont State Employee Credit Union gave us funding, and so we can fit toddlers with the extra small version all the way up to extra large.
Okay, so that person could get a helmet, I could get a helmet, so really anybody?
It's an open event.
Okay, great.
It is first come, first serve. We have approximately 300 helmets total that we could give away, and lots of ballpark hot dogs.
Fabulous.
And helmets are really good for kids who skateboard too.
Yes, you're amazing tonight. You are on it.
I am on.
That is true. The helmets are designed to be able to be used by people that ride skateboards or those other little things, whatever. So good point. Thank you for that.
Anything else? It's a surprising bunch tonight. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you really close on the time. Yes, Shannon.
I'm sorry to backtrack a little bit, but Madison double-checked and so the Vermont Community, Vermont Community Development Program does require, it's the same resolution that the Select Board signs for any grant application, But we do need the select board to approve that resolution, and then I'll give it to you, Jeannie, to sign. And basically, it just says that as any funding goes for the community development program, the town is the applicant, and then Shires, in this case, is the sub-grantee.
All right, so I'm gonna, yep, motion to that, do I have a second? Second, all right.
And I'll just send that your way.
Okay, all those, any more discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. Any abstentions? All right, thank you. And thanks to Madison for checking. Okay, all right, so next up, we have implementing the town vision, and we will start with a Juneteenth update from Jean.
Sure. So Jeannie and I both attended a Zoom meeting last week on the Juneteenth celebration that's being organized by Jonathan Phipps, who's the equity coordinator for the SVSU. The date, again, is June 18th, noon to 3 at the middle school. The highlights of the meeting are this. They were awarded another grant from the Vermont Humanities Council to fund the drum circle. They're working hard on expanding the food choices to be, traditional Juneteenth foods. And the Bennington Free Library is actively working on creating activities for children, and they're also going to be creating a bibliography of resources for anyone to read more about Juneteenth. And apparently, I haven't looked at it, but the SVSU Facebook page has a link to more details about the Juneteenth celebration. But everybody should really put it on their calendar, June 18th, noon to 3 at the middle school. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And I just wanted to update people that we are still moving forward on the town's ADA transition plan update. So the town, through Paul Dansereau's office, is assessing buildings, and Vermont Center for Independent Living, VCIL, has provided us both with some helpful resources in the form of some ADA transition plans that have been done the last 5 years in Vermont, as well as just some general guidelines of what one wants to think about as one moves forward with that. He's also, VCIL is also looking at looking for some volunteers who can be end users and look at some of our buildings and give us any additional feedback that might be helpful in terms of how usable, how accessible those buildings are. So that's all great, and we hope to have a draft proposal to share with everyone, sometime midsummer. So that's coming up. And then the next item on our agenda under implementing the town vision was really to give all the select board members some time to share their thoughts on a few projects and initiatives that they feel are important to pursue in this upcoming year. We're not at full strength tonight, so what I was thinking is that what we can do, since this is already on the agenda, is if we want, share one, we'll make this a 2-meeting agenda item. So we'll start it tonight and we'll finish it up next meeting when Tom is here. So I will just start it off, but my thought was that if people have something that's really burning that they want to share now in terms of things that we really should be thinking about in this coming year, let's start that tonight and then continue it next meeting. For me, one of the things that Jean and I heard over and over again when we were running for re-election this time was how important pedestrian walkways and biking pathways are to the community. And that took a lot of forms. Some of it was, can you explain all the different wonderful bike ped initiatives that are going on and how they connect and what they will look like when they finish. And I know that Mark Anders and Dan Monks gave a great presentation last year that sort of laid that out for us. So I think one thing I would love is for that to happen again, and then to link that to the sidewalk, the fabled sidewalk list that's out there of when sidewalks are being repaired or, I don't know, improved, and what the criteria are, so that we just all understand, because this is a very walkable town, and increasingly, I think you heard from the Bike Hub people tonight, that biking is something that people want to be able to do, and we want that to be part of the way people identify Bennington. So I think for me, understanding that system and where we are in that is really important. So, anyone else want to share anything tonight?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. It seems to me that we all know that housing is an issue. And I'm not exactly sure I know what the select board can do about that, but there is some things that I think can do, and that is do an analysis of the current housing stock in the town of Bennington. And I think it's just a matter of bringing together a bunch of information. It may need to do more than that. What I'm interested in is looking, instead of just sort of anecdotally saying this and this and how many single-family units, how many multifamily units, what is the age of various segments of the housing stock? Also, particularly important to me is what is its, how is it being heated? Because we know that heat and heat loss and greenhouse gases sort of go together. That would also, I would also want to link that with opportunities for homeowners to improve their housing stock. That saves money, and it also makes houses more transferable to a new owner when that time comes. So that's really what I'm looking for as an analysis. I'm not sure I know what of that information we may already have in some form, but I know this board has not seen it, at least not since I've been here, and we may have seen it at some previous time, but I know I haven't. So it'll take some work, but that's what I would like us to do. It gives us a baseline, at least, when we're talking about needing more housing.
Excellent. And I think BCRC has some data, but I think you're right. It's been a bit of time. Yeah. I think Jean's next, and then you can be. Okay.
What came to mind, and I promise it came to mind before we heard the presentation on recovery housing tonight, but I would like to focus on and pay attention to and hopefully support recovery housing in Bennington. I think it's a really crucial piece of the puzzle to address needs for people that are suffering from substance use disorder. And I feel like housing and all the wraparound services that go with that are crucial to people's recovery. And I think as a community, we really need to support that. These are members of our community just like you and I, and they deserve our support and our compassion.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add a few remarks to what Bruce said. When Jeannie sent out the email requesting that we choose 3 areas, housing was my number 1. I learned when I served on the Commerce Committee in Montpelier that one of the greatest impediments to Vermont's lack of economic growth is a lack of housing. Some of you may remember on several different occasions, Tom D. has come before us to say that, there have been doctors that wanted to fill positions at the hospital or in the community, and we're anxious for that to happen, but they couldn't find adequate housing. So anything that we as a town can do to augment or encourage either rehab or rebuilding or building the housing stock in Bennington, I'm all for. And you know, I don't want to volunteer, Shannon, but I might. You know, I know you already work with the community with respect to getting federal and state grants, and I hope that we can continue to do that.
Great.
And reach that goal.
Great, great. So I think, you know, I think we'll continue this next meeting, but I think, you know, I think it's important for us to think about the direction we want to take next year, and I know that, yeah, we all have more that we want to share. So that's a good start, though. So, anything else? I think that's everything on Town Vision. All right, we are to the managers. Oh, do you have a question? Please come up. Please come up. And state your name and town residence.
I have a question.
Could you state your name?
The Meals on Wheels will not stay lease in October, and they are trying to go down to the old elementary school, you know, but the school, they didn't finish the school. And what they want to do is bring it here for 5 days a week from 11:30 to 1 for nothing for the senior citizen.
For senior citizens, okay? All right. Are you asking a question or are you sharing information?
We go there every day at the Meals on Wheels.
Great.
And they will not stay. The word I just said before, in October. Lease will be up in October.
Okay, all right. Could you give us your name? Nancy Lively needs to record who speaks. Could you give us your name and your town? Are you a Bennington resident?
And go there 5 days a week.
Okay, great.
And the one that in charge is Elsa. I can't think of her last name.
Right.
She's in charge, and she's trying to go down to the old elementary school on Main Street, but they didn't quite finish the school.
Yeah.
So they like to have it here for temporarily till they finish the school up.
Yes, yes. So Meals on Wheels will continue to be active. It will absolutely not move until everything is ready to move, so there will be no disruption in service for Meals on Wheels. So it will stay at the senior center until, if it does move to Ben High will be ready to receive Meals on Wheels. The kitchen will be functioning. There will be tables for people to sit and eat and enjoy each other's company. So Meals on Wheels is not going away at all. There will be no disruption in service. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. It's okay. Okay. Wait. Oh, Tortoise, yes, come on up.
Hi, I'm Tortoise Isselhart from Bennington. I noticed on the minutes from the last select board meeting that CPARB training was going to be on this agenda.
Yeah, and so it's not on this agenda, it will be on the next agenda. And so at the time that we were anticipating what would happen in 2 weeks, there's been some illness.
Okay, and also it's worth mentioning that it's a week from today, the 16th of May is the deadline for applying to send a letter of interest for any of the boards and commissions, including CPARB.
Yes, I am sure there were at least 12 of us who were going to mention that under other business. All right, but yes, thank you for doing that. So May 16th, yeah, so I am sorry that we couldn't bring the training proposal back tonight, but that was unavoidable. All right, so I'm going to try a third time. Manager's report.
Thank you. I neglected to include a road closure in my road closures announcements and requests. On May 19th, June 16th, July 7th, and August 11th, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the downtown. And they are seeking to close Main Street from the Four Corners east to Valentine and School Street from Main to Pleasant. That is the first closure. The second BBC event is scheduled for July 24th. It is a community tag sale. And here, BBC is requesting to close School Street from Main to Pleasant from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. on that particular day. The final request comes from the Bennington Queer Connect. This is Bennington Pride Day 2022, which is planned for Sunday, June 26th. The event will run from 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. There will be a road closure for Main Street, which will be a rolling closure, as there will be a parade that moves from the museum east to the TD Bank lot entrance, just beyond School Street. And then School Street and Pleasant Street will both be closed for a block party that afternoon. So those are the requests that I'm placing before you, and I would need a motion to approve those closures.
So move. Second.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? All right, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please say nay.
Thank you. Just in the informational area, we completed the hazmat collection day at the Mount Anthony Middle School Saturday morning. With the wind chill, it was 46 degrees. It was probably one of the coldest hazmat collection days that I participated in. We did over 200 vehicles came through the site. And the reason I mention it, beyond the wind burn on my face and however cold it was for all of us who were volunteering, this will be the last household hazardous collection day of this kind in Bennington if things go well. The Bennington County Solid Waste Alliance has received a grant from the state and is in the process of building a permanent facility at the transfer station location in Bennington, which will be available to all people in Bennington County between May and October of a given year, open at least 1 day a week. So you'll be able to bring your household hazardous wastes when you have them and not have to store them and wait for one of these events to take place. So that was a wonderful anniversary to end with.
That's fantastic.
The second issue, we had a hearing with the Vermont Economic Progress Council, VEPSI, on our TIF extension on April 28th. It was a Zoom meeting, so it was not face-to-face. Stephanie Clark, our consultant, participated, as did Bill Colvin from Bennington County Regional Commission and yours truly. There were some amendments made to the TIF plan that this board approved in a prior meeting. So a second public hearing will be required. It will be May 23rd. That new revised plan will be submitted to the board for its approval. And then the VEPSI board will take under consideration the application for our extension. We must submit by June 10th. They have up to 60 days in which to make a decision. So that is moving forward. There did not seem to be a lot of issues that were presented, but we do have to hold a second hearing because of some amendments that were required by VEPSI to our application. Last piece here, then you'll probably hear more about this, but the Willow Park playground selection process has been completed. The canopy discovery plan was the plan selected by something like 75 or 80% of the votes, that 75? 70. And the color scheme was orchid. For those of you who read the proposals and voted, there you have it. I'm happy to let you know that. And now we're back working with the design build folks that we're working with to finalize the design, take into consideration all the comments that were received. And at some point, a final design will be back before this board and the public in the near future. And I think that's all I have.
Great. Great. Any questions on the manager's report? Yes.
Just something that happened this week that didn't make it into the manager's report. Shannon asked me to speak about it. We did receive a $200,000 downtown transportation fund grant for improvements to the river walkway. As you will recall, you folks authorized that application, and it has been successful, and we'll be working on making those improvements happen over the next couple of years. So just wanted to make sure everybody knew that was.
That's fantastic.
We don't have the agreement. We don't have the grant agreement yet, but the the award was announced.
And how long do we have to use that funding? Is it?
I think it's about 2.5 years, okay. But we'll plan to do the work construction next construction season.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Jonah, would you mind just announcing the meeting next week?
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to clarify that the final design, which has been chosen by wide acclaim, as Stuart said, 70% for one design. That meant that the two remaining designs were 13% and 17% respectively. So it really was an overwhelming response for canopy discovery. And that final design presentation, so once that design was chosen, we then took public comment and questions into consideration to tweak that final design, and that resulting design will now be released next Thursday, May 19th at 4 o'clock. We'll be giving a presentation at Willow Park along with our playground design consultants who will be able to help us and visualize how these new playground structures will work with the Willow Park as a whole. So it's not going to be a separate select board presentation. Instead, we're inviting you to come to Willow Park on May 19th, Thursday at 4 o'clock to see that final tweak design. Thank you.
Fantastic. So many good things. And that, I am like, we are not going to have a 1-hour meeting next meeting. All right, here's what I have on the list, Stu. Take anything off that you can. We have the second public hearing on amendment to town plan and the LUDR. People say looter. No, they don't say that. Do we have the water and sewer budget coming in?
Those will be handled during work sessions, probably on an evening meeting or a Saturday morning. We usually meet on a weekend to go through those two budgets at the same time.
All right.
We are very close to having them ready for you. They must be adopted by June 30th.
Okay, all right. We do have BBCs coming to share their work plan and budget as part of the review for an approval for the DID, or Downtown Improvement District funding determination. We have the Department of Health coming to talk with us about their health equity work in Bennington. We have the CPARB, or Community Policing Advisory Review Board, training proposal that will be coming. We have the TIF extension hearing. And we may have John Lamson coming back with news or an ask on a letter of support for funding through Senator Sanders' office. Anything else that we think we are covering next meeting? Oh, yes, we are continuing discussion on priorities and
projects and initiatives.
Projects and initiatives, thank you. Okay, Okay, so that feels like that's a lot for next meeting.
Yeah, we ought to get out of here by what, 11:30?
Yeah, maybe, maybe. Okay, and so I think, just to reiterate Tortoise's very good reminder, we are still taking letters of interest for boards and commissions, and please go on the website. You just click on boards and commissions. Jonah has done a wonderful job. You can see everything right there. If you have an interest in serving, please write a letter. You can email it. You can drop it off at the office. You can mail it, traditional mail. And that we'll be taking letters of interest through May 16th, which is a Monday at 4 p.m. And then that following week, we will be conducting short interviews. So for all of us, if you can let Stu know what days the week of May 23rd that you can meet, probably evenings, probably 5 to 8. We may only need 2, but we could possibly need 3. We will only interview people who are applying, who want to be part of a board that they've not been a part of a board, been on that board before. So we know we've got 7 to 9 seats that are completely open.
And I just want to make it perfectly clear that the boards and commissions includes the CPARB.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and it is really great if you are wondering, with the exception of the CPARB, if you're wondering what being on one of these boards would be like, you can always look at the CAT TV, either the CAT TV, depending on the board, look at the CAT TV video, or you can read the minutes and see what kinds of topics are covered. So, all right. Other business? Anybody? Yes.
Just letting folks know that on Wednesday, another one of these events, Wednesday, May 18th from 4 to 6 at the Depot Street parking lot, Green Mountain Power is doing an EV test drive event. So if you, for those of us who have EV cars, we have been invited to be there. And if you have ever wanted to test drive an EV car of some sort, that would be a place to go. You get entered into a drawing to win a free electric yard trimmer, and drivers will also get a $25 gift card to Bringing You Vermont. So if you own an EV and you haven't gotten this notice, get in touch with Green Mountain Power.
Green Mountain Power?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
the ones who were.
Okay, great. All right. Then I just want to remind people that on May 21st, so May 21st is a busy day. In the morning, there's a community garden celebration from 10 to 12 at the community garden by the rec center. It's part of the town campus there. And then the afternoon is the Bike Hub event. But please come by, community garden. There'll be free flowering plants, vegetable starts, lots of kids' activities. Lovely, lovely day. And snacks, healthy snacks. All right. Anything before we move on? Yes?
Yeah, 2 things. I believe Mamma Mia tickets at the high school went on sale today. That's the musical this spring. It's May 19th through the 21st. You can get the tickets. There's some website where you can buy tickets, but call the high school. They'll help you out. And I just wanted to share, being a frequent rider of the Green Mountain bus, I take it to work most days. I was asked by CAT TV to participate, or I was asked by Green Mountain Bus to participate in a show that CAT TV is partnering with them to produce about the Green Mountain Bus, and it was really wonderful. I was really honored that they asked me, and it was especially wonderful because one of the people that was conducting the interview and working the camera equipment was one of the Afghan refugees, so that made it even more special. So anyway, it was a wonderful experience and happy to participate.
That's great. And my understanding is that the final production will be in English and in Dari.
Oh, cool.
which is pretty cool. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Any other business? All right. So we have need of an executive session tonight to discuss real estate. We will not be making any, just coming out of executive session to make any decision. So with that, we'll say goodnight to everyone. Thank you for coming. As always, it's great to have you here.
We need a motion of that
Can we
sort?
have a motion to move into executive session?
And yes, I will make that motion.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Cat TV is celebrating 30 years of community media. Help support Cat TV's next 30 years by becoming a member today. Your membership will help us continue covering meaningful, local content. Thank you for supporting your local community media station.